Rub-a-dub-dub, get your ass in the tub, because it's time for the Bathtub Book Club. Hey bibliophiles, beer connoisseurs, and bath lovers. My name is Anna, and this is the Bathtub Book Club. The book club where every week I take a bath, read a book, drink a beer, and then talk to you about those three things with a U, in addition to any other essential B's that may come up during the week, like the beard of the week, or the band of the week, or the bag of the week, because I'm a fan of those fine leather goods. So whatever the B of the week happens to be, you can find it on my page at the Bathtub BC on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Cool. So let's dive into the B's of this week. So let's start with the bath stuff. I am in the bath and I used a yellow bath bomb from Lush Cosmetics. I love Lush Cosmetics. They have such great stuff and it makes me feel super good. So this particular bath bomb had been sitting in my cabinet for a while. It's like this giant yellow bomb and it had like little herbs in it. Maybe, I think it was rosemary or lavender or something. Because rosemary's for food. So it was probably lavender. So there were like little lavender herb thingies on the bottom of it. And a friend of mine had given it to me as a gift a while back, and I am now using it. So Jessica and Courtney, thank you so much for this Lush bath bomb. Yellow friendship. Awesome. And when it pours in the tub, it's like this bright yellow color. Like, did I just piss in the tub? But it eventually like spreads out and dissipates and it becomes like a more clear kind of color. So I'm just sitting in this nice little friendship bath, as I'll call it and coin it for the week. And yeah, enjoying my self-care time. So that is the bath bomb of the week. The beer of the week. So the story behind the beer is connected to the book. So the book that I'm reading is The Vegetarian by Han Kang. And it takes place in Korea. And the characters are Korean and a mix of other South Asian ethnicities. And Han Kang is Korean. So I initially tried to find a Korean beer. And I went to a handful of different beer shops and they had plenty of Japanese style beer or Chinese beer, but for the life of me, I could not find a Korean beer. So since the book is called The Vegetarian and it's about a woman who makes the personal choice to stop eating animal products and how that affects everyone else in her life and her family, I decided to go with a non-alcoholic beverage since I couldn't find a Korean beer. So I found this ginger beer by Fever Tree, which I think pairs perfectly with this week's book because one of the sections in the book is titled Flaming Trees. And that's fitting because this brand is called Fever Tree. So Flaming Tree, Fever Tree, that's a pretty good match. And then it's a ginger beer. So even though it's non-alcoholic, it's still technically a beer, and it's made with ginger, and ginger is a very common ingredient in many an Asian cuisine. I'm not too familiar with Korean cuisine in particular, other than Americanized Korean cuisine like Korean barbecue. But yeah, from my experience, limited Americanized experience of Asian cuisine, ginger is a very common ingredient. So I thought, okay, this is appropriate, a ginger beer for a Korean author about Korean characters, Korean story, culture, and a woman who doesn't eat meat. So I'm not drinking an alcoholic beverage. So cheers to Fever Tree, based out of New York, for this premium ginger style beer. Drink. It's delicious. Definitely get that gingery smell right away. And then as you drink it, you get that cool little like sudsy splash. How do I describe it? Okay, so you know, like that carbonation, almost like Pop Rocks. So when the carbonation or goes to, not carbonation, but I guess the ginger flavor, or as soon as this liquid hits the roof of my mouth, it gets that like kind of sound with the bubbles and the thing, and it's interesting and it tastes great. So ginger beer, cheers. All right, now that we've covered bath stuff and non-alcoholic beer stuff, let's dive into the book this week. So the book is called The Vegetarian by Han Kang. It's a novel, and it is, let's start with the structure, the breakdown. The book is written in 3 parts. So it's about a woman, the vegetarian, but it's not written from her perspective. It's written from the perspective of her husband, her brother-in-law, and her sister, which each person gets their own section, their own part of the book. And the story is basically these 3 people. It's their perspective of her choosing to go vegetarian and how it affects them. So it was a total mindfuck reading this book because it's called The Vegetarian. So it's about this woman who chooses to stop eating meat and other animal products. But it's not about her at all because it's written from the perspective of these 3 other people in her life and how it affected them and what they think of her. And so it's almost like driving that theme, driving that impression home of it's about her, but it's not about her. And it, like, what she thinks doesn't matter, what she wants doesn't matter. And the fact that Han Kang wrote it from the perspective of these 3 other people just kind of emphasizes and highlights that fact that this woman doesn't matter. And the irony is she does matter. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like that inner conflict, external conflict. Like, this woman makes a personal choice for herself and nobody shows any curiosity as to why she makes this choice for herself. They just immediately, like, with the husband. So let's start with the first section. So in the first section, I was triggered as fuck because her husband is a narcissistic garbage person. He is an asshole. Total fucking asshole. Like, from the beginning of the book, the first line, he talks about how he had never thought of his wife or considered her to be remarkable in any way. And I'm just like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, that's what you think of your wife? Like, that's how, those are the words that you use to describe your wife, that she's not remarkable in any way. And like in later parts in his section, his perspective of her choice to go vegetarian, he says other wonderful things about, he just has such nice things to say about his wife, such praise for his partner in life, saying things like she's selfish because she is thinking about her needs and her wants and didn't iron his fucking shirt for work in the morning. And later, once it escalates and things, I don't want to give too much away in case you want to read it, but when things escalate and she, you know, something happens, something very traumatic happens, he's not concerned for her at all. He's immediately thinking about how it affects him or how it makes him look or how he is somehow the victim in this situation. So it was just like, wow, this poor woman. Han Kang, hats off to you for writing it this way because fuck, man, it just really, the artistic license or the choice there, the creative choice there just really emphasizes the upsetting and unfortunate fact that this story is about this woman, but everybody else makes it about themselves. And that's completely relatable. I don't know if you guys can relate to that, where it's like you got something you're excited about or something you made a personal choice, or even sharing your emotions or your feelings in some way. And rather than making it about you because you're the one sharing or you're the one who created it or you're the one who whatever, the people that you're sharing this with make it about themselves and like how it affects them. The whole, oh, well, what about me thing? Or, oh, did you think about how this is going to affect me? And it's like, I didn't do this for you. I did this for myself. And like, that is the battle that this woman is facing throughout this entire book. She's like, she made a personal choice. And so in the first section, from her husband's perspective, he's seeing this transition. He wakes up and he sees her in the kitchen standing in front of the fridge one night and all the meat is on the floor. And which, okay, first of all, kind of creepy, kind of weird. Like you walk out in like the middle of the night, it's dark and it's late, and you see your spouse, your partner, your roommate, whatever, just standing in the kitchen silently, stoically, staring at all the meat that's been sprawled across the floor. Like, that should be the first red flag in your mind. Like, hey, are you okay? You would think, like, a non-narcissistic, self-absorbed person would immediately ask, is everything okay? Are you all right? Like, what's going on? Basic, empathetic, compassionate type questions. Like, you're showing concern for the other person. But he doesn't. He's just like, why are you standing here? Like, what are you doing? Accusatory and demanding and judgmental, like not showing any concern for her or curiosity about her choice whatsoever. He's just throwing a fit that he doesn't get to eat meat anymore and that she won't cook him meat anymore. And then he just like gets even more frustrated and upset as she, you know, starts to wither away. Like, he doesn't show any concern for her welfare whatsoever. Like, total garbage person. Let me see if I can find some quotables that I made note of in the book. Okay. Let's swap. Schwap. Oh my gosh. Damn. Okay. So yeah, so this guy is clearly a narcissist because he's describing himself as like a very average person. Like, he tries to inflate himself and make himself feel bigger by hanging around people who he can easily like lord over and manipulate. And so one of the great quotables from the first section was, and so it was only natural that I, the husband, would marry the most run-of-the-mill woman in the world. And I'm just like, dude, you should be grateful as fuck that any woman in the world would marry you if you're talking about her like that. Fuck, like the most run-of-the-mill woman in the world. Why bother fucking getting married then? Why bother fucking like being in a relationship if the only things you have to say about this person are shitty? Like, she's a run-of-the-mill woman. She's unremarkable. Like, wow, this is clearly a reflection of you, dude, and how run-of-the-mill and unremarkable you are and how fucking average you are. Like, damn, that's so fucked up. And then later on, when she has made the choice not to be or not to eat meat anymore, animal products, she's going vegetarian, and she's basically defying, like acting out in a way, like she's setting her fucking boundaries for the first time in her life. She's setting her boundaries. She's doing something for herself. Like, she's thinking about what's best for her. And he says this about that. It was nothing but sheer obstinacy for a wife to go against her husband's wishes as mine had done. Like, wishes being that she would make him meat and also have sex with him whenever the urge struck him. Now, while I was reading this, I'm thinking, okay, this is written by a Korean author. It's centralized around Korean characters. Like, this has to be a cultural thing, right? This has to be a cultural thing because, like, she's talking about the family dynamics throughout the book and how the main character and her sister are married to these men, and it's, like, their responsibility to take care of them, and how their mother at one point, like, when the husband is getting all huffy that his wife, the vegetarian, is acting out and not taking care of him, the mother is saying, like, oh, you make sure that you take care of your husband, and is talking to the sister. And so I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be a cultural thing. This has got to be like, you know, women have no rights. Women have no, basically no say in the marriage. They're bound to this man, this person, whether even if he's a fucking narcissist, a self-centered garbage person narcissist, and it's their duty in life to meet their needs. So I'm like, okay, let's just slow your roll a little bit. Like, think about the cultural differences. Cultural differences aside, like, really, 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 even if it's their responsibility to take care of you and yada, 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 and women are basically treated like trash and men are the leaders of the family, blah, blah, blah. Like, does that still not mean that you can't, like, extend any kind of, like, care or concern for this person who mothers you, basically? Like, when she's, like, ill, when she's hurting, when she's going through this thing, you can't show any concern or care for her at all? Like, I mean, even from the egotistical, narcissistic standpoint, wouldn't you, like, be worried about your property and concerned that your property would, you know, be compromised in some way, and that would affect your health and well-being or your livelihood? And then wouldn't you want to make an effort to kind of, like, rectify or fix your property, since that's the way you see it? I was just like, damn, this guy. I was so riled up. I was so fucking riled up reading this section. I just could not believe it. I was just thinking, this poor woman, this poor fucking woman. And at the same time, good for you. Like, keep defying, keep doing what's best for you. Like, you do you, boo. And you know what? Maybe eventually he'll come around, and if he doesn't, and it comes to a head and he leaves you or something, like, you'd be better off. Like, this is nuts. This is nuts. Oh, and this was the clincher. This was the fucking clincher. So after that major event happened in the book, that was, like, very damn, this poor woman, that it reached such, the emotions and the anger reached such a like, climax, a culmination, that she had to hurt herself in some way. And so the husband's response to that, after they had gone to the hospital, was, I decided. So again, he's thinking from his own point of view, not saying, like, oh, maybe we should have a conversation about this and I should see how she feels about it. Nope, he says, I decided that when I took her home, I would tell her, and indeed myself, that we should just think of the whole thing as a bad dream. What the fuck, dude? What the fuck? Wow. Yeah, so let's just pretend none of this ever happened and go back to living this fake, superficial ass, boring life where everything's hunky-dory because you don't want to deal with it, or you don't know how to deal with it, or you're just so wrapped up in yourself, dude, that you can't even, you don't even want to admit that your wife, like, had an emotional, mental breakdown and she ended up in the hospital because of it. And it also doesn't occur to him that, oh, maybe things that I'm doing are somehow affecting this situation and caused her to do this. Nope. No self-awareness, no self-reflection whatsoever. It's just completely accusatory. It's all you. You're the problem. I'm the victim. Like, I was just, but I could not wait for this section to be over because this guy was just garbage, absolute garbage. And I felt so bad for this poor woman. Just like, I wanted to jump into this book and be like, boo, I got you. We're going to get out of this dump. Fuck that guy. He's an asshole. You want to not eat meat or animal products anymore? Come to America. Let's go do this together. I got your back. This poor woman. I was just, yeah. So the first section is written from the husband's perspective, and it's very revealing about how much of a garbage person he is and how narcissistic he is. But obviously the intention behind writing it in that way and from that perspective, kudos to you, Han Kang. It really highlights and emphasizes how poorly women are treated and how little what they want matters and how little what they think matters. And again, I could just be reading into it. It could be a cultural thing, or it could just be a general synopsis. What was my thought on that? Maybe that's what I wanted to say. Maybe I'm making it a cultural thing because of, the setting of the story geographically. and the cultural influences of the book. So maybe I'm making it a cultural thing, or maybe it is a cultural thing. I'm not Korean, so I don't know. I'm American and have like French and Mexican roots, so that's a different bag completely. So I don't know what the cultural norms are in other countries, and especially in this one, Korea. So yeah, I could just be making it a cultural thing. Maybe it is a cultural thing where women's wants and needs and perspectives don't matter. So it was, damn, she done good, like writing it in that way, writing that first section from the husband's perspective of how her decision, this woman's decision, is affecting him, instead of going into the first person of why she did it, what led to it, her reasons behind it, what she thinks of everyone else's reactions. It's all everyone else's reactions to her decision. So it was very effective, and it got me riled up as fuck. I need another drink. Ginger beer. Okay, in the second section, it's written from the brother-in-law's perspective. And at first, like the first few pages, he gives the impression of being very understanding and very compassionate and very empathetic, and he sees her point of view, and it almost seems like he has her back. And then it takes a fucking dive, and you're like, nope, here's another shitty garbage man who's only thinking about himself. Like, oh my gosh, the men in this story are terrible, fucking terrible. And damn, like, this is so, yes, it's just a novel, but there are plenty of women in the world who are in these situations, whether willingly, unwillingly, knowingly, unknowingly, and they have to deal with assholes like this and garbage men like this. And it's just so frustrating because this is actually happening out in the world. Like, this could be someone's real story. Maybe this is someone's real story. I didn't do a lot of background research. I just saw the book and I'm like, that looks interesting. Let's give it a read. And then, holy shit, all this stuff that's coming out, it's like, are you freaking kidding me right now? So the second section is written by the brother-in-law. And damn, he's a piece of work too. Because he's basically this tortured artist, and his wife takes care of him. And his wife is the vegetarian sister. So his wife takes care of him and does everything for him. So he has complete freedom to do his art and do whatever he wants, basically. His wife hustles her ass and makes all the money and owns her own business and supports the family. And his perspective on his wife is she's a good woman, he thought. The kind of woman whose goodness is oppressive. I'm sorry, is life a little too easy for you, bro? Where you got your meal ticket paid for, you got some sugar mama footing your bill, cooking for you and taking care, giving you complete freedom to pursue your bullshit art? Like, really? That's a little too oppressive for you? If you don't like it, then maybe start contributing a little bit. Or maybe not be a garbage person and show a little gratitude and be thankful for this gift that your wife has given you of full freedom and flexibility to pursue your art, which clearly isn't going anywhere. Fuck, man. It's just like, ugh. Terrible, 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 terrible. And then later in his section, he has this like brief moment of self-reflection, just very brief, one sentence, and he thinks perhaps it was all down to him being self-centered and irresponsible. And it's like, you think, dude? You think maybe the reason that your art hasn't taken off and things aren't going well in your life and you're just kind of like, meh, is because you're self-centered and irresponsible? Maybe you think so? And so even though he has this brief moment of self-reflection, boom, back to his old shitty ways and does nothing about it, doesn't dive any deeper. There's no follow-up like, oh, I noticed this. Maybe I should do this about that. Nope, nothing. Just like, oh, maybe I'm self-centered and irresponsible. You would think, oh, maybe I should do something about that, or I want to fix that, or I want to get better at that for my wife because she's such a good person. It's so oppressive. Like, nothing at all. Damn. So, yeah, he's a fucking weasel. He is a prince fucking weasel because he, at first, and he's manipulative. He's more like dangerous than the freaking husband in the first section, because the husband of the vegetarian, like, you at least know who and what he is. He is such a narcissist and so self-centered. It's like freaking red flags all day, and you can't deny it whatsoever. So it's like, oh yeah, I know what this guy's about, and that's who he is, and that's what he's about. Cool, got it. But the brother-in-law is like this manipulative, seems to be caring, concerned, and empathetic kind of person, but really he's a fucking weasel. He's just looking out for number one and his own selfish like vision. He's just obsessed with this artistic thing that has to do with the vegetarian, and it leads to such a fucked up situation that, I mean, again, I don't want to give too much away. You have to read the freaking book. And I'm still trying to decide whether or not I want to like actually just do a full synopsis of stuff that happens and what I think of the book, or just keep it superficial so that, you know, there's no spoilers. I'm still trying to dance that dance and figure out what I want to do with that. Maybe you guys can give me your thoughts on that. Should I just do a full-fledged what I think of the book, including all plots and details and spoilers, or should I just keep it general and not put any spoilers in there? Let me know what you think. Okay, so yeah, he's a fucking weasel. He's a manipulator. He's selfish and self-centered and irresponsible, as he says so himself. And he puts the vegetarian in such an unfortunate and shitty position. He takes advantage of her. He takes advantage of her in the worst way. Like, this woman is like suffering from mental illness. She's like emotionally compromised. She's vulnerable. She's fucking vulnerable. She's gone through this very traumatic experience, and he's fucking taking advantage of that. He's capitalizing on it in the name of art, for his art. And it's just like, no, dude, you're just selfish and horny, and that's the end of it. So yeah, the first two sections are just a fucking emotional roller coaster and fucked up as shit. Damn, the men in this story suck, and I feel so bad for the women in the story. So the last, and I also like not just sympathize, I empathize with these women, because I've had some unfortunate run-ins with narcissists in my life, narcissistic dudes, and yeah, they break you in, and they shatter that, you know, inexperience when it comes to love or dating or relationships. They shatter that naivete, they shatter that innocence, whatever you want to call it, and they fuck you up. They fuck you up. So, damn. I really feel for these women. The third section is written by the sister, and it's at a point in the story where the vegetarian has basically reached her limits. She's suffering severely from mental illness, and like, this decision has revealed all the cracks in the relationships with men in her life, from her husband to her brother-in-law to her own fucking father. And it's landed her in 24-hour like assisted care living, like a facility. And so the sister is talking about, from her perspective, like, how they got there. How did we get here? She's taking care of her now. She's going to visit her. She's like not managing her own family and dealing with her husband who's disappeared because of what happened, and like now being a single mother and taking care of her son, her child. And you learn, like, the sister reveals a brief snippet, like Han Kang just kind of gives a little glimpse of their childhood, their history, and what led to them being the way that they are. Again, family dynamics, you guys. Fucking family, just like last week with Chelsea Handler and Life Will Be the Death of Me. Family dynamics and family karma and family behavioral patterns, ancestral history affect our fucking personalities, affect our lives, affect our makeup, affect the decisions that we make, the way we behave. And unless we identify and like shine a light on those patterns, behaviors, and habits, we're going to keep repeating the same bullshit over and over and over again for all eternity. Like until somebody stands up and says, hey, our family is this way. It's not benefiting us. Like whether we're cowards or we're fearful or we're aggressive and violent and we just like kind of act as the prodigal children because it's like a safety mechanism, whatever the things are that are holding us back or limiting us, we have to fucking stop those patterns. Otherwise, we're going to basically infect our future generations, infect our children and our grandchildren with all of these fucked up patterns and behaviors and thoughts and beliefs and values and ways of being. And the only way to counter that is to identify it and be aware of it and then make a conscious choice to do something different, to modify it, to counter it, to do better, you know? Like the vegetarian, she made a conscious choice because of a dream she had. She kept saying she had a dream, and everybody dreaded hearing her say that phrase. I had a dream. And nobody wants to hear, oh my gosh, I'm like backtracking right now because the stream of consciousness and train of thought right now is just on fire. So in the first section, from the husband's perspective, he's talking about this very important business dinner that he needed to go to with his boss's wife, and some other people he worked with. And his wife had already made the decision to become vegetarian. And so he's basically like holding his breath, hoping she doesn't ruin this dinner or embarrass him in some way by talking about being vegetarian. And when the dinner comes around, everybody else is eating meat, and she's just picking at whatever few vegetables she can get. And the boss's wife asks her a question, basically, you know, why she's not eating meat. And she says, oh, I'm vegetarian. And they all kind of laugh. Ha, 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 ha. It's like the cringy, typical, superficial, fake as fuck, like business dinner or social gathering where you're around people that you don't really like or you don't know well, but you have to put on pretenses and put on a face. And so they're all laughing, ha, 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 you're vegetarian. And they kind of ask, oh, what's your decision behind that? I hear that's so posh now, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know why I'm talking like this, but that's my idea of like some swanky, fake as fuck, like dinner. So they ask her, why did you decide to be vegetarian? And the husband just like sits there and cringes because he's waiting for the response and like saying to himself and hoping, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. And then she says it, I had a dream. And then he immediately like bites on the end of her statement and changes the subject because he doesn't want her to go into, nobody wants to hear the truth. Nobody wants to talk about truth. Everybody wants to keep things superficial, where it's light and breezy and airy and shits and giggles, but nobody actually wants to hear any intimacy. Like that's an intimate encounter. Like her decision to go vegetarian, it was a very intimate, personal decision. Like she had this dream, this fucking terrifying, gory dream that shook her up and caused her to go vegetarian, choose to be vegetarian, decide to be vegetarian. But nobody wants to hear the truth. And it just reminded me of all these instances in my own life of where somebody asks you a very real question, and I've been left with the decision of, okay, so do I give the superficial social bullshit response to just placate and appease their like surface level curiosity, or do they actually want the truth? Do they actually want to hear the real answer? And like we have to make those decisions every day, like deciding who we can trust with the truth, because not everybody wants to hear the truth. They just want to make conversation, or they just want to fill the silence. They don't know how to just sit there with something and really feel the weight of it, feel the severity of it, feel the intensity of it, whatever that may be, whether it's like intense and kind of more on the dark side, or intense, passionate and enthusiastic and vivacious and lively. People don't know how to sit with that. It's uncomfortable. We don't know how to have those conversations. So even though this is a story about Korean culture and a Korean woman and Korean family and that society, it's universal because it transcends culture, having difficult conversations and being willing to listen. And I have met few people in my life who actually want to hear what people have to say. And I've had more luck with complete strangers who have been open and honest and willing to lend an ear than I've had with people that I've known for years. And it's just interesting how in this story, that's another reason why I started the Bathtub Book Club, because I knew going in and reading these books that it was going to be a mirror to my own fucking life, regardless of culture, time, fact or fiction, autobiography or novel. I knew that there were going to be snippets like this in here, like shining a light and reflecting real life and making me think about my own experiences and contributing to my own personal growth and evolution and learning. And this book is just a great example of that. This woman made a decision for herself and nobody cared to ask why. Nobody cared to ask why. And if they did, and she started to share, oh, I had a dream, they immediately get impatient or as some people in my life like to say, the whole shut up, stop talking. It's like, okay, I've heard enough. I don't want to get that deep into your shit. Just, okay, saying you had a dream is sufficient. And it's sad. It's so sad because it ends with this woman in an ambulance with her sister getting taken away, and it all stems from their childhood. It all stems from the violent and aggressive father they had, and the way that he would treat the vegetarian, and the way that the older sister just act as the good, firstborn child, like taking care of family responsibilities, and, the prodigal child, because as she recognized about herself, because she was a coward. Because she didn't want to get beat up, because she didn't want to get hurt. So on the one hand, it's like, you're a fucking coward, but on the other hand, you were a child. You were survival, self-preservation. You were trying to protect yourself. So it's understandable. And then once you reach a certain point and you recognize where that stems from, it's like you're an adult now. You have your space and your freedom to make different decisions. Not better, not worse, different decisions. And once you're aware of that pattern, or aware of those qualities about yourself and where they stem from and why you developed those things or how you developed those things, then you get to make a choice to do something different. If you're not happy with the trajectory of your life, you get to choose to make something different. Choose to do something different. And that's basically the essence of this book. The vegetarian, the woman that this story is about, made a choice for herself to do something different. And because the people in her life were so opposed to it and disgusted by it, and she didn't have any support or encouragement or empathy or understanding or compassion, and it led her to an emotional mental breakdown of the highest scale. By the end of the book, she's schizophrenic. So shit, it was a great fucking book. And the parallels that you can make between this fictional story and real life are just too close to home. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've experienced things and I've witnessed things and I've observed things, and there are plenty of situations I have seen where people, especially women, or people who have more feminine energy and are more emotionally sensitive, and not in a bad way at all. They're just more emotionally perceptive. They're more emotionally sensitive to energies or to life. They express things more deeply than other people do. And those people are the ones who usually get taken advantage of. They're people pleasers because they want everyone to be happy, and they get manipulated. They get taken advantage of. They get shit on. And if they don't have the tools, or they're in the right society, or have the family support or people in their lives to rally behind them, they go down this freaking terrible path of just wanting to be seen and heard and understood. And it leads them down this dark black hole of mental illness and depression and, like this poor woman, schizophrenia, and just like severe anorexia because of this decision. And it's like, I wonder how different it would have been. Was she prone to become, like, was she always schizophrenic? I don't know much about like mental illnesses and how that works. If it's like, if you're prone to it and like you're born and you're just going to end up that way, or if there are certain situations in life that affect us so significantly that lead to like a self-induced psychosis or something along those lines. It's like, how different would this woman's life have been had someone just listened to her, had someone just shown curiosity and concern, and the sister's there in that sense. The sister is taking care of her, but she's doing it out of a sense of duty and responsibility and perhaps obligation, not because she's genuinely interested in understanding her sister. And that's a difference too. There's a difference between truly, genuinely being interested in understanding someone and showing curiosity for the way they are, who they are, the decisions they make, accepting them, accepting someone for who they are or for the decisions they make for themselves. They're not harming anyone. They're making a decision for themselves. Like, there's a difference between that kind of curiosity and then just doing something out of a sense of duty, obligation, or responsibility. Like, you don't get points for showing up. You don't get, there's a difference between showing up for someone and holding space for someone. Like, you can show up and get points for being there, but are you really present? Are you really there? Are you really taking an interest and a concern in what is happening in the moment with this person? Are you holding space for them? And no one in this book holds space for this poor woman. No one gives a fuck about why she made this decision. They're all just so wrapped up in their own idiosyncrasies and their own selfish needs and their own manipulative, weaselly, narcissistic, obligatory, cowardly decisions and actions. So it was a fantastic book, The Vegetarian by Han Kang. I highly recommend it with a ginger beer. And cheers to you, Han Kang, for a real mind bender. Dug up some interesting things. And that's another thing that I'm interested to know, and why I would love to have people in this book club with me. Because I want to hear what each of these books brings up for you. Like, if you read this book, when you read this book, what do you see in it? What comes up for you? Like, what is reflected back to you, or what moments or instances from your life and your own personal experience are emphasized and highlighted by this story? That's what I'm really interested in discovering through this book club. So thank you very much for watching episode 2. If you would like to join the Bathtub Book Club, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the Bathtub BC. And if you would like to be a member of the Bathtub Book Club, you can find me on patreon.com/the Bathtub Book Club. And you can participate in weekly members-only book club discussions where we go over the book and we talk about those very things. What came up for you? What was emphasized for you? What did this reveal about yourself? What did this remind you of? I want to have those conversations because I'm genuinely interested and curious about other people's experience in this thing that we call life. So until next time, you guys, cheers.